Just go live. I'm going live now.
The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was. All things are mortal but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality? Jews saw them all,
Okay. Whoa.
beat them all,
Seth.
and is now what he always.
Technical stuff. How are you? Not great.
Terrible.
Welcome
Um,
to the Thejewfunction.
Absolutely terrible.
What's
Yeah.
going on?
I just saw last night Chabad Shul in Pomona, New York, was burned. I just looking at pictures now, all three Torah scrolls destroyed.
Can you share your screen? Can we see it? I'm not on it.
Let's see.
Was it some matzah related accident?
Yeah, I think it was probably matzah related. You know, they left the oven on or something. No, I don't have. Oh, here it is. Just a sec. See this?
Oh, wow. That's a big one.
Yeah. Okay, so you know, we have this. We also have what's going on on college campuses, people waving Hezbollah or Hamas flags on college campuses. We had
That
Shai Davidai on our show. He's an Israeli. He's a professor at Columbia in New York City. If anyone's not following what's going on at Columbia, but he just requested police escort or security escort to work tomorrow because feels unsafe to
right.
walk to campus. There's I have a video here.
You're saying police escort for simply going to my own place of work.
Yeah, so there's someone shouting at one of these things at Columbia. October 7th will happen, not one more time, not five more times, not 100 more times, 1,000 more times. You got the dean of students at Northwestern University attended an anti-Israel protest this week targeting just endless, Leo. It's you know, we're not surprised. You know, it's just you know, when you wake up with a headache, even if life is good, it's still, you know, bothers the day. There's nothing surprising about this. It's smoking out all of the, you know, what was already, you know, when you shine a light in a dark room, so then you see what was there. So it was there. I'm glad that it's coming out. The problem, but it's just, you know,
The pus.
I got a headache from it. I think is just the point.
No, I know.
We're not surprised, and it's not surprising to us. You know.
No, it's not surprising, and no, and it's all coming out. We just what people don't know because we just recorded a couple of days ago a talk with a great guest, Sam Hyde, and I was stranded in Australia, in Austria. I'm sorry. Funny story. That in the airport in Vienna, there's a desk for Americans who confuse Austria for Australia, and they show up there as like, where are the kangaroos? And it's like, no, dude, it's Austria. So and I was stranded there in Austria for a week because of the Iranian attack, and we recorded a show with Sam Hyde, which should come up. We have like a bunch of shows in the hopper, so do stay tuned. But it's clear that it's not business as usual. It hasn't been since the 7th, and I don't see it going back to business as usual anytime soon. I think even though there are attempts to normalize things, right? It's like, okay, war with Iran? No, not war, just like a little shadow war. We just throw some stuff at you, throw some stuff at us. And meanwhile, in America, the Congress passed the law that from the river to the seas, is considered anti-Semitic. So they'll have to find another slogan, I guess. So there's like these little things, but we know they're just dealing with the symptoms. They're not dealing with the root cause. So I don't know.
And not only, so they're not dealing with the root cause, and not only that, many Jews still in America have no clue what's going on, do not feel it at all yet.
That's the weirdest thing, Even, by the way, even in Israel, I think a lot of people I don't think are fully grasping the extent to which this has rippled out of Israel. I think maybe people who are forced to become activists, kind of like this, how Shai was forced to become an activist, and Samantha Itis from LA, who found herself becoming an activist, and also our guest today, who probably didn't imagine that he will. Maybe he did imagine, because he's like a very active, he's a socially active guy, but I don't think he imagined it when he was down there on the 7th. He's a soldier, a reservist, and he drove down on the 7th and did some amazing stuff there. We'll hear from him some of the stories, not all of the stories, but he by coming out of that event, he found himself again being a voice against anti-Semitism, and he went around sharing his story with everyone on social media, obviously finding some sympathizers, but also probably finding the other side of it. And then he founded an organization. It's called Israel Is, and it's dedicated to advancing peace through authentic storytelling. And he's now spearheading the Survive to Tell initiative. So he's an interesting guy, fascinating guy, and we were able to get him just on the eve of Passover right here, also a symbolic date. So I'm really happy to invite Nimrod Palmach. Nimrod, please join us.
Hey, good
Hi,
evening.
Nimrod.
How are you guys?
Good.
Well, as we said, we were sort of ready for these events in a way. We were talking about them. We were anticipating something terrible happening, not exactly how and in what form, but all the signs.
Spiegler, I wrote this in 2019, and it's just a Jew, the antidote to anti-Semitism. Published. We're studying the same thing, but already we were very serious and organized about this. This was published in 2019, and it's saying that Nazism was not a German phenomenon, and you go through history, and America is where it's coming next. And we were already, in Spiegler, you have your hubs and nodes thing you were doing at that time, and it's
I did it in 2014.
2014.
Yeah, actually, it was shot in 2013. 2013, walking around streets of Europe.
So this was. It's not surprising, but it's still surprising, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think the magnitude. I think we heard. We also did. I'm recalling a documentary, and we'll get to you in a second, Shai. We're just kind of setting it up because it's all really
not Shai. Nimrod. Shai was last.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm thinking of our guest from last week, but it's all just happening so quickly. And in 2014, we did a documentary about the rise of anti-Semitism in America. It's a different thing than the ones that said. It's called Into Truth, and in it, the main guy we're following, he's saying to this woman in LA who's fighting anti-Semitism on campus, right, the head of Amcha. He said, here in America, Holocaust can just happen like overnight. She's like, wow, what are you talking about? We have all the conditions for it. And she's like, what? And we're seeing it happening. So, Nimrod, you're with us now, and you have quite a story. And even though we're not really like a current affairs type of show. We're really talking about more of the root things, the forces behind the bigger ideas. But we can't just glaze over your personal story. So maybe tell us, I know you've told this story probably a million times. If you can give us like a short version of just the events that made you today a voice against anti-Semitism, like, from someone who probably had a different thoughts on his mind when, before the 7th. So give us kind of like a little timeline of events starting from the 7th, what, how you found yourself there, what you did there, and then and we may interrupt you, so because we like to interrupt.
Sure, no problem. Just to clarify a point regarding my bio, I'm not the founder of Israel Is. One of my closest friends founded the organization, and I replaced him as the CEO exactly a bit more than a year ago, because I had the privilege to look at my career, to take a break and ask myself big questions. Where do I want to invest my next 5 years? And it was pre-October 7. And after a short journey here in Israel, I realized that one of the most difficulties or problems we have for the Jewish, both for Israel, but also for the Jewish world, is anti-Semitism. It's the rising of anti-Semitism. And I always felt it's an inch below the surface. Meaning you only need to scratch it a little bit, and there it explodes. That's how I felt.
And you felt it before the 7th? I'm
I
sorry.
felt it before October 7.
Oh.
Then I realized I want to dedicate my next 5 years of my career focusing on an NGO that try to tackle these problems, and that's what I've done, and that's why I came to Israeli. So actually, it's a bit before October 7, and yeah, so that's just the start of how big this topic and an issue was big for me, to a point where I shifted my career. And October 7, it's caught me like everyone else. On one hand, on a big surprise. I was not expecting for that day, not even close. On the other hand, I was not surprised by the brutality I'm about to witness on that day. I was not surprised with the hate, tremendous hate that was demonstrated against the Jewish people. One of my friends, also a guy that gave lots of medical help, first responder in that day, he said it really well. We were in October of 2023, but it completely felt 1943. That's how it felt. I felt like someone kicked me 80 years back to an evil days, dark days, where Jews were executed on the street just by doing one crime. Crime is being a Jew. That's the only crime that you have done. Being a Jew, was born a Jew, and you had no way to run away from it. That's how it felt on October 7. And to take you really quickly, I was actually stayed in a place called Chavot Yair. It's in the Shomron in Samaria with my fiance's family. And I was called really early for reserves. My commander called me and he told me that Hamas fired rockets, Israel is under attack, and our unit is being deployed in Jerusalem. So it was a very quick conversation. And I said, sure, I'm coming to Jerusalem. I drove to Jerusalem. On the way there, a few things happened, but eventually I got to Jerusalem around 8 o'clock. And there I'm seeing another video describing what's happened in the south in pieces of information. And there I decide to defy an order and drive south all by myself, carry only my pistol with me. I have 10 bullets in this pistol. I don't know where is my spare magazine. I'm really pissed at myself not knowing. And as minutes goes by and I drive, I'm realizing the magnitude of this event. And I also realized that not a lot of people realized it. Definitely not my commander and others that are trying to call me throughout this drive and to get me back to Jerusalem. And halfway there, I'm receiving a phone call from my ex-wife, and her boyfriend lives in Kibbutz Nir Oz. And she cries over the phone and she described the catastrophe. And I'm realizing what's going on more and more. I'm starting to get the full picture, and I'm getting more information via Twitter and news. But again, no one really understands what's going on. On the way there, I will leave a farewell video for my kids, realizing this is the last hours of my life. It's a day you cannot go alive from, especially not with the motivation I had to go in to save my ex-wife, boyfriend, and his daughters, but not only him. So the first thing that really strikes you on that day is saying goodbye to life. The realization that this is the end, accepting death. And actually, it was a very surprising situation.
I want to just ask, while I just interject here, do you think about your motivation? Because people, especially those who are not like active service soldiers, they're not prepared to like say goodbye to life. Regular people usually, they kind of cling to life. What's motivating you at that moment? Is it a small thing?
Number one, I didn't want to say goodbye to life. I love my life.
Of course.
And I think
your willingness,
what made me do it is empathy, is really understanding and feeling what people that they are trapped now in the safe rooms feels. And if I would be in their situation, I would just pray holding to my kids and just pray for someone to come. And this someone needs to have a face. That's what I grew up and I was taught. Be the one that makes a change. Don't wait for someone. You be the change. I was educated in this way. And when the empathy kicks in and you get to think about people praying for someone to come and save their life from this barbarism, I immediately knew that I'm going to go all the way in. And when you also know what waits for you, you understand this is it. So I left this video in my phone, put it in my pocket, understanding when the army will find my body, they will find my phone and they will give it to my family. And that's it. And from that moment on, it's on for fight. I had a full day of fighting, more than 15 hours, straight fight, no drinks, no food, running around. I've seen dozens of terrorists, endless bodies of Israelis, civilians that died in the most horrific ways. I was one of the first eyewitnesses to stay alive throughout the day and to be there, both in Kibbutz Alumim and Be'eri. And as I said, I was, from one hand, you understand you're in a historical moment, but on the other hand, I was not in shock at all.
Two questions for you. When you said this is how you grew up, this is the education you had growing up, where did you receive that education, that this is how a person should be?
Number one, my parents. I grew up in I think a very Zionist house and a very caring house that the world giving has a really, really important meaning. And that's how my parents brought me into this world. Also, I think it's part of the way my system works. The empathy, I'm really connected to my feelings and to other people's feelings, and so I think it's a combination.
So after you, I wish more people had that kind of education and upbringing, but after you experience something like that, how do you come back to a world with Legos behind you and beautiful home, and then open up and see that the world is like criticizing you for trying to commit genocide? How do those things, like,
Yeah.
how do those two experiences rest inside of a person?
So number one, this this is my therapy. This is actually my therapy. I wish it wouldn't be so expensive, but this is how I especially find my way to be alone, to think, to reflect, to create. Sometimes I do it with my son. And, again, also the hypocrisy in the world did not surprise me. And actually, on that day, I was so focused. I think this is one of the things that made me stay alive throughout the day. I was really focused. Even my senses, I could hear better. Everything was enhanced, and due to the adrenaline probably, but maybe more than that. And again, the realization you are in a historical moment. You are in the midst of his historic moment. So what do you do now? So at some situations, I was shooting with one hand and taking videos and pictures with the other, to take evidence, to make sure I'm not only holding to the moment, but there is evidence of the moment. And the evidence is really hard. It's really bad. But tomorrow morning, October 8th, by the way, even on the darkest moments of that day, when we were outnumbered, outgunned, just waiting for the reservists of the IDF to come and to save the situation, for the cavalry to come, I kept telling myself, by tonight it ends. We are going to destroy them. We are going to kick their ass. But on October 8th, a new front will come. And this is the front of the Israel image in the world. We will have to prove that what happened here really did. And even if people out there would believe it happened, of course, they will blame the victim. You are the ones.
Why did you think that?
Why would people blame us?
We know that. We talk about it, but most Israelis that I know, I mean, I'm from Israel, I lived in New York for many years, but I came back. Most Israelis until the 7th didn't even think it's like, oh, there's some issue with the Jews, with the Israelis. No, we're like, we do what we want wherever we want. There's no there's this Israeli feeling, right? But this, where did you get this sense that you're going to be blamed for it somehow?
I faced anti-Semitism around the world. I worked in different countries around the world with people, and there are a lot of places where I'm really naive, especially with people-to-people interaction. I'm really naive. I will hire everyone to work. I will trust everyone is the perfect employee, and I do a lot of mistakes. But on these scales, I'm not naive. I know exactly what's the problem, how we perceive in the world, the depth of anti-Semitism, the roots, and I know that they will blame the victim.
So this is a really important point for us and what we're trying to do, because you told me you're holding their phone making videos, right? On the one hand, you should be able, like, eyewitness accounts should be a very high level of credibility. Like, this is what happened.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's a strange phenomenon where it doesn't matter. Even if you show somebody what happened, they just don't believe it. Like, I hear kids on campus at Columbia University in New York City, no women were raped. This is a fake. This is Israeli propaganda. Like, and wants your head to explode, because it makes you realize that in order to solve this, we can't just show video of what happened. Like, in order to solve it, there has to be some change at some deep fundamental level in
Yeah.
people.
So I think I operate on a daily basis to try to change this equation, but I want to look at the other side of the coin, where they are not a phenomenon. The ignorism against Israel, choosing not to know, or the plain anti-Semitism, this is not a phenomenon. The phenomenon is the Jewish people. And this is what I try to focus in to understand the phenomenon of the Jewish people.
What is that phenomenon?
Man of my heart. I like him.
So what is let's just try and figure out what that phenomenon is, because we believe that's where the real solution lies, not in trying to get somebody else to believe it, because all of that hatred on the outside we see as like like you ate shitty food your whole life, and now it seems like your body's attacking you and you're sick, and you can't fix it. But if the body is healthy and you spend your whole life, make sure all the systems are in balance and everything's in balance, this won't exist. This can't exist. There's no place for it to exist.
So I don't know. I disagree. I mean, it's from different layers and levels of life. As more as you'll be successful, you'll have more envy against you or enemies, or it's on so many different levels. But I'll give you a story. I used to work with my mentor, is a very smart Israeli that we worked together, and we worked in Ukraine, and we helped establish academies for leadership for the Ukrainians. We did it also in Zimbabwe with the same methodologies of how we do here in Israel, how we train young Israelis to be activists, to go to the army, to do national service, to be leaders in Israel's society. And they loved our methodology. And it was back in 2015, 2016, after the Maidan revolution, of course,
Right.
before Russia invaded. And we were showing them this amazing deck about Israel, phenomenon of Israel, from so many levels. And when they got to the describing the economics, suddenly they stopped my friend and they told him, no, this is not fair. You cannot show us the GDP of Israel, which back then was 43,000 per capita dollar, and the Ukrainian is less than 13 per capita, because you, the Jews, are a nation of 600 million people. And we, the Ukrainian, are only 50. And now this is a minister in the government, a very smart dude. And then his top advisor, she is Harvard graduated. She's also Ukrainian. She said, sorry, Mr. Minister, it knows that the Jews are only 90. And they're starting to argue in the room, how many Jews are they? And then,
if it's 600 million or 90 million,
or some others say 250, they're arguing how many Jews are there in the world, which is fascinating to see. And then you're saying, listen, it's between 12 to 15, depends who you count in. And you know what the answer was? This is why everyone hates you in the world. This is a propaganda. You're not even willing to say and to admit how many are you in the world.
So
they didn't believe.
So to our point, what you're describing is great. It's something that we've seen throughout the generations, different perceptions, anti-Semitism that exists in places where people didn't even see Jews, or people thinking there are many more Jews than there actually are. People ascribing all kinds of conspiracy theories, or all kinds of superpowers, or all kinds of intentions, and so on and so forth. We see it. We've mapped it out. We've looked at the history of Jews parallel to the history of the world, and we've seen all expressions of that. And the fun thing about it is that it always changes. It's not one thing. It's not like you could say, well, it's only envy, or it's only because they killed Christ, or it's only because they're isolationists, or only because they're revolutionaries, or only because it's all those things. Everybody will just kind of adopt a narrative that works for them, right? So we know we're a nation of contradictions. Maybe instead of kind of going for the root of anti-Semitism, maybe we'll turn around for a second and ask you actually, how would you define, what is a Jew? Who are the Jewish people to an alien? We like to ask that question here. So if an alien came and said, well, this group of people, they're only 15, but it feels like they're 250 million, and they seem to draw all this attention and have all this influence and all those things. Who is this group of people? How do you define them? They're not a nationality, they're not a religion, they're not an ethnicity, they're not only those things. So do you have an all-encompassing definition that you go by?
Yeah. It's a very spontaneous answer. I was not preparing for it, but listen, I definitely think that there is something here on the metaphysical level. But if we'll take this aside, because I don't think this is
no. First of all, this is the best place for this. Is probably the only place you'll be able to talk about it, the metaphysics. And by the way, we had on the show Professor Patterson. He converted to Judaism from Texas, and he wrote a book, The Metaphysical Root of Anti-Semitism. So you're not alone, and there's really smart people thinking about this as well. So
I definitely think there is something here on the metaphysical level. And if we want to break it down to the day-to-day, this is a group of people that value education, that value learning, that value debate and advancing. And we have not just set of values that we work really hard to maintain and to hold on to them throughout the years, but even though some of them are looking really, it's hard for me to explain such deep level in English, but let's say the Shabbat, for example. For me, I'm talking my own perspective.
Yeah, of course.
Even though it looks very something old, archai in Hebrew, I will not say in English. Archaic, something really, it gets more and more relevant as we go. You only need to look at it from different angle, and you'll find a magic. And if you ask me, this set of values that eventually builds a character, this is something that I haven't seen in any other place in the world. I travel the world, and I've seen nations that not even value. It's like going forward is like going. It's like going back. הליכה קדימה בעת ובעונה אחת זה הליכה אחורה. Whatever you do, it's something that you already done. You are part of the circle of life. No place to stop and to ask big questions. I've been to schools in Africa that kids sits on the floor, and there's enough wood in Africa. No one thought to stop and build bench. And this is fascinating. And I've seen the agriculture in Gush Katif or in the desert in Israel, and I've seen the agriculture in Africa, and I'm telling myself, how can it be? what happened here? And
Explain what that means for people who don't understand the reference.
I mean, I've seen thousands of kids in Africa that every day they eat the same thing. It's the stump of the corn where they
Yeah, they mash it, they grind
mash
it,
it,
take it into a pulp, and
and
then
yeah,
it's a
exactly,
porridge.
and they eat it, and it has no nutritions, and that's what they eat all day long because that's what they grow and that's what they have. And when you go to travel Israel South, one of the hardest climates places in the world, in the desert of Israel, you see the phenomenon of the agriculture in Israel. Why? Why it happens? Just because we are willing to think, we are willing to try, to. So that's how I choose to live life. I choose to look inside, to find the wonder, to ask why things are happening, and to try to emphasize these matters.
So, okay, go
What,
ahead, go ahead.
what was it that you said to me earlier that you disagree with me about?
Oh, about that they are not a phenomenon. We are. That's what I try to say.
I think we agree about that.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is not a phenomenon. This is an obvious thing.
Yeah.
The phenomenon is the Jewish people.
Yeah,
Why?
okay, we agree about this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we agree. I want to. So okay, so I want to ask, just probe on something specifically because you're Israeli as well. So you described this beautiful picture, no doubt, and we agree with all of it. And you know, when you speak to enough people about it, when you ask people these questions, which is what we do on a regular basis, people eventually come up with really good answers for what is Jew. There's no big consensus yet, but there's a lot of great ideas. And the thing that we ask immediately after is, when you look in, let's say Jews in Israel, okay, let's just keep it because you're from Israel, so it's easy for you. When you look at Jews in Israel, not the people fighting in the trenches right now in Gaza, in the north, wherever, but just, and not even the regular people, but sort of the mainstream population, the media, the politics. Are we a representation of these great values that you're describing?
No, we are in problem. I definitely think that we are facing a problem. It's a global problem, and it's also, we are also facing it here in Israel. Yes, I would say the regular Israeli that you'll meet is getting more and more far from, not, I wouldn't say these values, but to bring Judaism into your life as Judaism as a culture. And we're getting far away from it, unfortunately. You see it with the younger generation. Definitely, you see it around Israel in different aspects, and it's really painful for me. I think this is one of our main challenges in Israel, our identity. Eventually, I think it's all about identity, and yeah, maybe the war, maybe the enemy that showed himself to us on October 7th brought us a little closer, or maybe pushed people to re-ask questions about their lives. But I think we're in a
help make this this understanding more clear, because we spoke, for example, earlier in the week to Sam Hyde last week. He's in Israel. He believes there's something, but doesn't believe in God, probably because when you say the word God, it means a lot of things, right?
A lot of
You have an
baggage.
issue.
A lot of
A lot of,
baggage.
yeah, you have an issue in Israel, because when you talk about Shabbat or you talk about these things, I don't get the feeling that you are forcing Israelis to live in a dati, like in a religious country where the rabbi is going to tell you how to live your life. I don't feel that from you. I also look at you. You don't look like you're a religious guy. So
my fiance, we're about to marry. She's Shabbat observant, and I'm not. But I really appreciate Shabbat, and I appreciate the concept, and I know how to connect it to me, and I know that I value Shabbat so much. Even though when I travel to business for New York, I have to stop in synagogue for Friday night. I have to, even though I'm driving there with the car, and it's something so deep in me. Listen, when I say identity, identity has to realize your identity and to connect to it has a power. It's like endless fuel inside of you for the rest of your life. When I was 16, it was back when I was 15, I was kicked out of school. And they sent me to a mechanical school to be a mechanic. We were only 5 kids in the grade. And this is a very shameful situation, and you're about to be a mechanic and whatever. It took me a year and a half to fight back to go to school. And my parents helped me, and I went back to my regular school. And I was on probation. And one day I got late to school, and I see 30 kids, the best kids in the grade, are standing outside next to a bus where all the other people are in the classrooms in the boring part. And I am coming late, and I look at the classes, and I look at the parking with the bus and the kids, and I want to be with them. So I approached and asked them, guys, where are you going? And they said, we are driving to Jerusalem. Why? We are going to Yad Vashem. Again, I was around 16 and a half, 17. And I asked them, what is Yad Vashem? And they told me, this is a museum for the Jewish people. Why are you going there? Because we're traveling to Poland. And I wanted to go with them. So I snuck in the back of the bus and drove with them all the way to Jerusalem. They covered me with backpacks. When I got to Yad Vashem parking, I forgot I was not invited. I just went down the stairs, and the principal sees me. He snapped. He called my father, and they are starting to plan how they will get me from Jerusalem to Kiryat Gat, where I'm born right now. And my father on speaker. And I interfered. I said, guys, you can send a taxi, do whatever. I'm going in Yad Vashem. And I did. And on Yad Vashem, I learned that they killed 1.5 million of our kids. And I saw the famous picture of the young Jewish boy raising his hand and the mother holding a baby with a German holding a rifle. And I took an oath, never again. And I became a serious person. I decided I will draft and I'll be an officer and I'll be in combat positions. And that's what I did. And it changed my life. Now, it happens to people when you connect to your identity on a deep level. And that's what happened to me.
But you're like a unique, special person, though. This is not a path for the masses, I don't think. I mean, I wish, but it doesn't seem like what you went through is you seem like a unique individual. You have most of the people which is wonderful, but you have a lot of people on the street, they hear something. I'm going to sit at the Passover Seder with Jews who don't understand what's happening. I'm going to sit there with family members who don't think there's a problem in America, who aren't willing to do something about it, right? They'll be just led to the, God forbid, on the trains when it comes and say, how did this happen? So the question is, you have people on the street in Israel right now who either think it's going to be a theocracy, like the religious people are going to be in control if we don't stop what they're doing now. And on the other side, we need to support democracy. So how do we find some way, not for the unique individuals, like first of all, the goal was let's find some people who we can relate to. So we found you. But now that we found you, and we're on this mission together, but now we have to stop and look and see what's the problem. The problem is, what do you do with all the Jews on the street who want to kill each other?
Okay, so think about it. Let's get a word from our sponsor, which is us. Give us a second. Thejewfunction is really it's a desperate attempt to change something about the rise in anti-Semitism that doesn't seem to go away, and looking at history usually ends with something terrible before we reach relative quiet again. But we don't want to reach something terrible. We want to do it now. So that's why we're doing this podcast. And if you like this, also consider leaving a small contribution on our Patreon channel. Right, we both have day jobs, by the way, so we're not hoping to make money from this. We're hoping to see some change of heart.
Any funds are used to get this out there, to get this to people. We consider this the same way you go out every day to get money to feed your family, put a roof over your head. This is also critically important to our future, to our safety, to a good world, not only for Jews, but for everyone.
Well, this is the Thejewfunction, and let's get back to our guest. Okay, so
Yeah.
what do you
I
think?
believe in leadership, and I believe, listen, here in Israel, we got the best gift we dreamt for thousands of years. We have a playground for the Jewish people to play, to mold, to it's the first time we can actually not have a state of our own, not be afraid to hold on to the halacha or to the practical part of the Jewish people. But here we are hitting each other and fighting and afraid. I have arguments here at home. I'm not afraid from the ultra-Orthodox. It's not threatening me. It's not threatening me that they are not drafting. I don't know why. I'm also accepting that in Judaism. I'm also accepting a really secular, my sister from Tel Aviv. I'm really accepting it. As long as we have something to work on and to find our common grounds, this is what motivates me. I believe in leadership. I believe that we need to find solutions that will be led by people to re-educate, to build new programs, new schools of thought, how is to be a Jew in Israel without being afraid.
What can be this common ground, you think? What can be one thing, one ethos, one story, maybe that can unite everyone, the big Jew and the hipster Jew and the gay Jew and the Mizrahi Jew and all the different flavors. I'm curious, what do you think?
If we will let go of the security stuff, which is really actually a thing. I was talking about Iran for the last 5 years. You know, at the 4th day of the war with Russia in Ukraine, I flew to Ukraine. I entered from the Polish border, both to save Jewish families and also to support. And one of the things I said to people that told me, you're an asshole, you're a maniac. What would you do then? And I said, whenever evilness is occurred to you, you have to face it. Don't be naive that it happens only there, far away. When evilness occurs in the world, eventually it will come and bite you. And that's what I've done. So number one, security is enough for us to realize we have to be united. We have to be together. You know, for situation there, people, it's like I had an experience on October 7th. It's like I went into the future to see what will happen to the Jewish people if we won't have an autonomy and we won't have a strong army. They will not just kill us. It will be much more harder than that.
Nimrod, you got it. You feel it, right? But now we have a problem. What about everyone else who doesn't? What about all the other Jews who don't, who are still on the street fighting each other today in your country?
So that's a matter of leadership. You know, God, at the beginning, he sends feathers that will tap your face, and then he will send bricks into your face. And I felt that we had these feathers before October 7th. Then we had bricks. I wonder what next. But I know we need to wake up, and we need leaders to actually lead us this direction. We need young leadership. This is what I think. I'm not one of these people that needs to lead, but because I have no ambitions to be a politician, but I definitely think we need to have new leaders. And the second thing is, we need to have common grounds. Everyone needs to give up about something. To be able to listen is to really put your agendas on risks, right? So go ahead and put it.
Wow. You're going to have a great marriage, man. I'm telling you, because marriage is all about concessions. It's all about giving. There's a story that say that love is this monster that lives between two people, and you feed it with concessions. And if you don't feed it with concessions, it will devour you. So
this is the karma. I mean, I give, I get so much in return. And I do want to say that when we established the Survive to Tell brand here in Israel, I had a situation inside Kibbutz Be'eri. We were pinned down with a hostage situation. And I was laying on the ground holding my rifle. And I had the first, actually time, we had 10 minutes, we were pinned down. And I had time to reflect and to think, what have I seen here all day? what have I seen here? And we're just running from one place to another and under fire, and I was shot, and then I had time to think. And I told myself, and I don't know I'm in October 7. I don't know October 7 again, it's a thing. I know I'm in a very special point on time. I don't know October 7 yet. I don't know the date.
Right.
And who would believe me? Who would, and if someone would believe me, how can I actually bring the same feelings that I feel right now to other people? And I told myself, listen, the best way is for you, Nimrod, or maybe people like you that survived this, maybe to travel over the world and to tell your story. It's not effective. I cannot do it. Then I thought about the VR project. Probably the most intense, immersive experience after sharing your own personal story face to face. And that's what I did. We captured unique stories, and we are going to travel all over the world for schools, for communities. And I believe in the power of empathy. And when they will go through a 10 minutes experience without actually be the witness, actually be inside the fields with Mazal Tazazo, an Ethiopian Jew, that both of her two best friends were executed right next to her. And then the terrorists look at her and decided to hit her with the back of his rifle. She did this. So he broke her fingers, cracked her head open, tied her legs, and started to drag her towards the vehicle. But then he looks back and he sees that she's covered with blood. He said, okay, she's dead. He left her there. And she pretended dead for hours. And she survived. Now with this VR project, you can actually be with Mazal, and she will tell you, this is exactly what happened, and you will look at the tree. Now, it's your decision to believe or not. I believe that in every one of us, there is signal from God, there is something from God, and most of the people will believe.
You know what? Definitely a set that you're a unique individual, even though I know you may think you're not, but in a way you are. I feel like, no, and I'm not necessarily giving credit to you. I'm speaking within the big system. Hearing you talk about your life story, it seems like your whole life was leading you to all of this. If you think about it, the way you were introduced into, Yad Vashem, and the way you were sort of taught how to kind of fight for what's right, and the way, all those things that you were describing in your travels around the world and feeling of anti-Semitism and all that stuff, to me, it feels like you're, it's just like, and this is your mission, and it's amazing. What we are really concerned about is not so much the outside world learning about this. They will. I mean, there will be your project, and Spielberg will make a video, a film, and they made already 20 films about the festival, and we will make those things. That's not going to win the fight. That's going to buy us some time. I truly believe. I truly believe in what you said earlier, that it's about something that we have to do ourselves. We have to come together. We have to make these concessions. This is. And what Seth and I really want to ask, like, how we, you say leadership, but there's no leadership right now. Even if there were elections today, it would be more of the same crap. It's not happening right now. And I'm not expecting the leadership to do it. I'm actually, I have less trust of the leadership and more trust in the people. Because Israel, by nature, we don't like to be led, if you know what I mean. Each one feels like a king. I have my opinion. I probably know about better than everyone else. So our only hope is in some form of a conscious, active unity, not forced unity that comes when you're being beaten. And now you have to unite to defend, right? But you have to be a step ahead of the blows and unite by choice. How do we do that? What kind of project can we do?
I'm optimistic in my heart, so I want to start by saying it will be better. I really believe so. I really believe that it will be better for the Jewish people, for Israel, and for the world. I mean, when we are fighting in Gaza now, it's also for the Palestinians. They also deserve a better leadership. They deserve better life eventually. Maybe we need to go through a full generation, and it will take time, but it's not just for us. And people that don't understand, it's not Israel Hamas. It's Western civilization values against extremists, extremism, fundamentalism, jihadists. And that's why I choose to believe it will be better. I also think maybe it will be a bit more worse before it will get better. There is also a situation like that in life. I mean, just a week ago, Iran shot rockets to Israel. This is a very, very unique tipping point of everything, of the entire story. Again, Persians against Jews, again, this is huge. And it happens in our days. So maybe we need to go through a bit more bad before the good will turn. I think the shock therapy that we have gone through should have been enough to get us to start talk post-October 7. And we, the younger generation, need to educate even our mentors, even our teachers. No more before. This is too much. And I believe in bootstrap ideas that will rise from the bottom. And when I say leadership, it's not someone that will fall from another general, another, I don't know. It's not that. And I'm a believer, so I need to believe.
Do you believe that we started saying that maybe something metaphysical? We think that you don't need to go as far as metaphysics. They're just laws of nature, and there's obviously the highest law, the law of love. You can say it's the creator, God, doesn't matter. It's always mentioned in these terms. And there's ways to be in harmony with these laws of nature, and there's consequences to not being in harmony with those laws of nature. It's not it's only a mystery when you don't know the laws, but when you understand what's happening, then you can work in a certain way. Do you feel like this thing that you're connecting to, this identity that you spoke of, this culture, this feeling of Shabbat, all those things that you just described in this past hour, do you feel that they really relate to a certain special or different role that Jewish people have in humanity?
Sure. We haven't gave everything that we have to give to the world. We need to be modest about who we are and what we can bring, and we need to understand also that sometimes we probably cause trouble, but altogether we have so much more to give, not just to the benefit of us, but for humankind. And when I fought on October 7, and when I saw the atrocities, I haven't just fought for the Jewish people. I also fought for humankind. And I have to be honest, I would do it for everyone. For every human that suffered, from what people had suffered there, I would go and risk my life for them.
I wish we could make like a Nimrod Palmach school for young people to
or
install
a clone, like in the Star Wars thing. We can clone the guy. And
But since
by the way, my dream, if you ask me what's the top of my life, is to is to establish a school, and not a Nimrod Palmach school, just a school. One day I'll get there, when my kids will grow old and they'll have the point where they will need to go to school, and maybe there I'll stop everything and go and establish a school.
So let's try and crystallize and just bring this to a head here. What is it that the Jewish people? I mean, maybe it's just all the things that you just said. That maybe it's those things that we're willing to do anything for the other. So let me ask you though, what is it that the Jewish people? You said I don't think we have. I think we have more to offer. I think that's what you said. What can and we're such a small group, right? We're not a couple 100 million. We're not even a couple tens of millions. So it should be pretty easy to start with a small group. So can you help me crystallize here? What is it that the Jewish people need to give to the world?
Listen, the easy part is an empiric part. It's the economics, it's the tech, it's the agriculture, it's the medicine, it's the biotech. It's on the places that you can quantify it. It's really easy. As the startup nation, you can actually see it. And number one, this is great, but this is not really for me. Not the really. This is outcomes of something much deeper. That the secret sauce of these outcomes. This is what's really interesting for me. And again, I think it's too complicated for me to answer about it right here. And I think it sits on very, very deep aspects of who we are. And it goes all the way back to monotheism, the meaning of monotheism.
Yeah, we say it goes back to Mount Sinai. That's where we were as one.
Yeah, and to bring to the world justice.
Nimrod, I put in the chat a quote by someone who has very nice words. Rav Kook, I'm sure you know him. Maybe you can read it to us out loud. It would be a great. We ask everybody to read, so you know.
Yeah. Only when the Torah is existed in Israel will complete peace and faithful love come, and the pure feeling of recognizing the brotherhood between people will develop. When that development is completed within us at a degree that merits being a role model to many, all the nations will recognize it, and the blessing of peace will begin to dwell into the world. I love Rav Kook. Really, it's yeah.
That's the thing we always say here. We looked at historic patterns. We look at network science. We look at a lot of different disciplines, and everything points to the same thing. But then you open a book and you see that our sages, the Chazal, right? They already wrote about those things hundreds and thousands of years ago. So we just have to just open our ears, shake this weird.
It's really just important me to the end of this conversation to say, I don't live in La La Land, right? I know that on the one hand, I want to stay a philosopher, a dreamer, an optimist, an educator. On the other hand, I want to be a fighter. I think the Jews, we have to have one hand that taps, but the other hand, be a fighter. I carry a weapon. I can show you every day. It's right here. And we need as a nation not to be naive anymore. We need to know how to defend ourselves. And not.
So I want to ask one last thing. I know I don't want to open up a big discussion, but small discussion. Do you think, and I know because, as you said, this is very tangible. You have a gun. I know. Okay. A book, a gun. I know this is. I can see it. I can feel it. I know who I'm aiming at. Who are the enemies, and I can fight them if I have to. Do you think we as Jews are ready to actually start fighting the enemy within, the ego bend against this quality within us that separates us, this thing that doesn't let us make concessions? It's a quality within us. It's inside every person.
I don't know about me. I know that I'm willing. I'm willing to risk a lot. From me to others. I gave a kidney to someone I don't know 3 years back. Maybe it was 4 years already. I'm willing to do a lot. And I'm willing to put my agendas, my beliefs in risk to create a dialogue and to try to face the demons that are inside of us. I hope that...
Blown away by you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, guys. It's really important. Thank you.
Wow, Nimrod. I don't know. I have no further questions. Usually, many more questions, but this time you kind of left us a bit speechless. So, so thank you for that. This is our concluding music, so we're wrapping up with an end. Nimrod Palmach, an amazing person. I feel like an hour is just not doing justice to this person, but Follow him on Instagram everywhere. He's making the rounds. Israel is in his project, Survive to Tell, right? Is the name of the project. And really just cling to this guy. I'm sure a lot of good stuff will pass on to you and then pass it on to others. I think this is like the essence of what Jewish people should be and aspire to be. And really, I'm saying it, humility, such an example. And thank you for coming here, day of Passover. I hope that we will have the strength to come out of the slavery of our own egos. This is really the story of Passover for us. It's not some country in the middle. Good. Some great people to follow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nimrod. Seth, we're the Thejewfunction. Like, follow, share, subscribe, everything. You'll find us on X, on Instagram, and YouTube, still on TikTok. And look out for. I think we're not going to have a broadcast because it's holiday. Recorded episode soon. And different. Big hug, brother. I'll see you.